What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Mythic Plus. Today we are going to continue our series, just doing a little bit of a route breakdown, talking about some dungeons that you are, I know it's a little bit late in the season, but things that people are doing, and just kind of breaking down why these pulls work, routes that I actually take into groups, especially when I'm listing my own key, and going from there. So let's start with the Rookery, just kind of a default run. We're going to do this run, and then we're also going to do a Parasol run, and just see what the differences are. The only difference is really like a 1% or so trash count, so you don't save too much, like you're not doing a whole lot extra, but it's just the way that you do it is a little bit different. So let's start with the default run. We're going to start over here in the top right hand corner. This first pull, unbelievably easy with Lust. There's a lot of Thunders in this pull, so there's like at least a few Thunderers, and then you have these Rook Guards here, and then you have the little mini boss. If you're popping Lust, this pull should go down pretty easily. If you have a Balanced Druid or a Demon Hunter tank, that pull is going to be unbelievably trivial, so you should just be able to blast this pull. If you're a caster, there's a little awning right here. There's a little safe spot that you should be able to stand on. You won't get hit by the boss's frontal or anything like that. But otherwise, just pull all this. No need to pull the Thunderer and the Void Rider over here on the side, which saves you a lot more raid damage from that Void Rider, and then you actually don't have to deal with the Thunderer as well on top of the other Thunderers that are already in the pull. So, pretty standard pull. A lot of people do that. We'll go over why the kind of the other route utilizes that in a second here. But for me, I like to go over to this is actually done in a bit of a wrong order, but I always go to the right here. And the reason you go to the right is because you never want to pull this patrol with these two, with the Thunder and the Rook Guard here. You never want to pull that with the other three Thunderers, because you end up with a pack that has this pulsing AoE from this Void Rider, and then you also have four Thunderers all casting, spam casting those Storm Bolts and that sort of thing. So you really want to avoid that at all costs. Make sure you're keeping the pulls to 3 Thunderers or less. That will make it a lot safer. So when you fly over, go to the right, try and get the patrol with this, like this over here, with this other right-hand side pull. And as you can see in this pull, so we have like 3 Rook Guards and we only have 1 Thunderer. So there's only going to be one thing that's actually just casting at random people, and you're going to get that little burst of damage if that goes off. And then basically we just have to deal with the Void Rider here. He's going to pulse some AoE damage, and then the Storm Rook here is going to do that like single target channel. But those are a lot to deal with, just the 2 Griffins doing their thing, so you want to make sure that there's not any random damage going off, which is why we pull all of these with the Rook Guards here. After this pull, the next one's going to be pretty easy as well. It's just a lot of Rook Guards, not a whole lot of Thunderers here, and then you just have the Storm Rook. So again, shouldn't be a whole lot of damage going out. We're keeping the pull. We're following that rule, keeping it under 3 Thunderers, making sure that there's not a whole lot of those spam casts going out, and that's where we want to be. We'll wrap around the back side of this room here and then go to the next spot. Again, we don't want to be doing this Thunderer with the Pat, so we don't do this pull and this pull. We never do this and then do these two. We always do this with the Pat, even if the Pat's in a bad position. Just pull this, wait for the Pat to come back over, and then grab it with the Rook Tender Storm Rook over here. So we just have 3 Rook Tenders here, and then we'll pull another one with the Thunderer and the Void Rider here. So this is going to be a very similar pull to this first one that you did, and it should be very manageable for most Pug groups. Just make sure that you're giving your healer as much time, as much place to succeed as you possibly can. So, and then we'll finish up the route in this first room, at least, with the 2 Rook Tenders over here, so no Thunderers in this pull, and we just have to deal with these 3 Thunderers and the predictable damage that comes out of the Storm Rook. So, and again, if you have a Balanced Druid, if you have a DH, that's going to trivialize these pulls a ton. So definitely make sure you go to the right. I know a lot of people try and fly over here, and they get this Pat with the 3 Thunderers or do a bigger pull right here or something like that. It's just needlessly dangerous. There's no reason to do it at all. Just Lust first pull, get it on cooldown, especially because if you take a little bit longer with this first pull and Lust this pull, then it actually isn't going to be up for pull 9 over here. We'll get to that in a second. So finish up this first room. We'll do the first boss, easy clap, and then we'll fly down here and we'll start with the top left-hand side of the dungeon over here. So you're going to skip this. You don't need any skips. You just hug the wall over here. Grab this 3-pack and pull it down towards where the number 7 is. The only thing really difficult about this pull is the diffuser. He's just going to do some good pulsing AoE damage, so just make sure when attracting shadows comes out, you're making sure to get the kicks on the oracles. There's going to be 2 oracles just casting void bolts at people during this pull, and that's really the only thing that's going to brick people. The void diffusers, that steady AoE stream, most healers should be able to handle. So if you are kicking right off the rip, maybe just like to get the mobs into position or something like that, but save stops for when that void diffuser actually does his channel. People are going to be forced to move. They're going to be, there's going to be AoE coming out. You don't want those other random sources of damage coming. So if you've been kicking these oracles for no reason, try to be a little bit more strategic. Try to save at least a couple stops so that your healer just has to deal with that AoE damage and not the random instances of damage there. This 3-pack, kind of a waste of time. It's pretty unfortunate, but in this pug route, I haven't really had any issue timing this key for the most part, just because unless it's on a higher key, and things just happen. It is what it is. But this pull, very, very safe. These crushers will just leap at random people. Not a whole lot you can do about it. And then the void diffuser from before, he's just going to do that pulsing AoE. It is what it is. They will also stack, the crushers will stack a healing reduction on the tank. I've never had any issues with that, even on higher keys, like on 13s, 14s, whatever. So if you're a tank, you can always find a way to drop stacks or something like that, but it's not going to hit you for a whole lot. So don't worry too much about that. Into the next pull. This is where if you lust right here on pull 1, you should have it up for pull 9. So pull 9 is going to be very, very dangerous. We're going to have 2 of these oracles, actually. So we'll have an oracle here, and then we'll have 2 of the void diffusers. The main difference between this pull and 7 is that you have an extra void diffuser, and then you still have the same number of oracles. So they're going to feel pretty comparable, but the void diffusers can do a lot of damage on higher keys. This is where you just need to pop cooldowns. Just pop cooldowns, pop defensives, pop lust, don't die. Just be a live lord. I see a lot of people that will die with stuff up. Use pot, use anything you can to survive. If you survive the first 20 seconds of this pull, you're going to be golden. It's probably just going to die. So don't be stingy with cooldowns. It is what it is. This is definitely a pull that you can do in pug groups now. I've seen a lot of people have great success with it. I've been successful with it at least a few times. I think I've only failed it maybe 20% of the time, something like that, which sounds high, but with random people, with no comms, very, very doable. Just call for lust right before you pull it, and it's all good. So yeah, be liberal with your cooldowns, help your healers out, all that sort of thing. Going into this next room for the second boss here, pretty normal pull. We'll just grab these civilians on the side, pull them into the second boss here, and then we'll go into this next room. The Ascendant, 2 crushers, very, very similar to what we've already seen. The crushers still do the same thing. The Ascendants just dodge balls. It is what it is. Not a whole lot to say. The only thing that you really need to be wary of is the Feasting Void cast, which we will go into when we kind of get down here. So if you're not doing the Parasol skip, you just jump down this little hole right here, and we'll take ourselves over to the bottom right-hand side of the screen. We'll grab all these civilians and these crushers. Typically, you want to kill these civilians, over here or something like that. If you're going to do this whole pull 12, try and pull everything over to, over here somewhere. Kill all of the civilians, and then try and maybe move the Void Stone a little bit just so he doesn't get too many stacks from the defeated units. If you want to be really, really safe, you can just grab these civilians, nuke them really quick, and then just grab the crushers with the Void Stone. Any combination of that doesn't have the Void Stone getting as many stacks is a very good thing to do. So this should be a pretty chill pull. You just want to make sure that in this area you are not overlapping the Void Stone's AoE, which occurs after the second consumption. He'll do like a consumption cast, and then he'll do another one, and then he'll do his big AoE. You just want that to not overlap with these Void Ascendants Feasting Void. That's really all you need to be worried about in this area. So typically, yeah, you'll just do this pull, wait for the AoE to happen. As soon as that AoE is done, assuming that this thing isn't already dead, it's usually dead by that point. If that AoE finishes up, you can go ahead and chain into pull 13. It's just one of these Void Ascendants and a bunch of civilians, pretty similar to pull 11 over here. So you can chain into that. As soon as Feasting Void goes off and this dies, you can chain into this first part of pull 14. You just want to make sure that the Feasting Voids are staggered and making sure that at least one of these Ascendants is dead before you chain into the next one. And this whole hallway, this whole stretch right here is really just making sure that you don't overlap Feasting Void with these Voidstone casts. As long as you're doing that, there's no reason that you should wipe to this, ever. Unless your healer like needs mana or something, then like obviously let them get mana, that sort of thing. But yeah, as soon as the Feasting Void goes off and you have one of these alive, you don't want to do this with like 2 or do all of this. Feasting Void goes off, we chain into this should die. This AoE goes off, you can chain it into this, and then this pull just kind of sucks because it's just Ascendants with the Feasting Voids and the AoE. But those don't ever line up in a really bad situation. But there's the route again. I'll probably link this in the comments or something like that. It's going to be a really long text string, but hey, we do what we can. But yeah, that's the very, very basic Pug route. This is the route that I use in most of my keys if I'm just farming crests or like doing whatever. It's a very, very easy thing to do. The only thing that differs when you're doing the Parasol skip, if you haven't looked at the Parasol skip ever, go to the trading post. I don't know if it's still there anymore, but if you got the toy from the trading post, you should be able to do this skip. I've even put it in the description of my Mythic Plus like group listing. When I list my key, I tell people to just list that they have the Parasol, just so we know that we have everyone on the same page. The only thing that differs about this route is you actually do a harder first pull. So you need some extra count on the front end of the dungeon. So we'll do this Void Rider and get another Thunderer. If you have a Balanced Druid or a Vengeance Demon Hunter, this is going to be very, very trivial. But and this pull doesn't really do a whole lot anyway. So pulling a Void Rider with this is just going to be that consistent AoE damage. Should be very, very healable, provided you get some kicks on these on the Thunderers and that sort of thing as the pull gets started. So just be a little bit careful with this pull. Be mindful that that AoE is coming out, and the rest of these pulls in the first boss room are not going to be too hard because we've gone over those earlier. So you don't really need cooldowns for these first couple. So feel free to send everything here. And the only other thing that is different about this route, compared to the other ones, I guess, well, 2 more things, is that you pull 2 of these little sleeping Void Crushers on the left side of my screen over here. So you'll actually end up doing this Void Diffuser in the bottom left with 4 Crushers, which can be a little bit annoying. Just make sure that you are using personals if you drop a little bit lower. But that pull usually goes down very easy. You can use a lot of CC, you can use Ursals. There's a lot of good ways to get rid of damage that goes on that pull. And then over here is where you'll kill this Ascendant after the second boss. You'll pop your Parasol prior to jumping. You need to make sure that you don't pop it during jumping because it will not activate properly. So pop it, jump, and then it'll float you down right over here. You'll have full control over your character in the air, so it's not like slow fall or something where you're locked into a direction. You can fully turn, you can move forward whichever way you're pointing, and you have a ton of time to actually position. You want to land right on this ledge, avoid this Void Stone, and then you'll follow the same rules that we went over before. So you'll pull this, you can even pull it into pull 13 here, pull 12 into 13, so just attack this, get all these civilians dead, let the Feasting Void go off from this Void Ascendant, and then you can chain it into pull 13 and get a little bit of extra cleave, a little bit of extra damage, kill one of these, let the Feasting Void go off, and then get into the Void Stone. So that'll save you a little bit of time at the expense of having just a little bit of a harder time on that first pull and then a little bit of a harder pull over here. But either way, this dungeon, not too difficult. But yeah, as you can see, we're right around 100% count, so we definitely don't want to be over in the 102, 103%. That's just extra stuff we don't need to do. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this is helpful in helping you guys time keys, especially with pugs. This is, again, both of these are routes that I actually do use, and they've gone over very, very well. So if you have any questions, leave a comment below, like the video if you liked it, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.